Hey everybody, welcome back to the 80s Slashers YouTube channel. In this video, I will be discussing and reviewing the 1981 slasher Scream. I will be discussing the plot, the setting, the kills, the nudity, the Blu-ray itself, before wrapping it all up with just some final thoughts. Yeah, so let's get into it. So, Scream. Now, not to be confused, obviously, with the 1996 Wes Craven classic. This is a not too well-known slasher released in January of 1981 that has a reputation for the few that have seen it as being one of the worst that the genre has to offer. In fact, if you were to go on to IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, as of the recording of this video, it has a rating of 2.9 out of 10, which even for an 80s slasher is really low. So, is the film's reputation and rating warranted? Well, let's get right into, breaking this slasher down piece by piece and, find out. So let's start off just by going ahead and talking about the plot. Alright, so, Scream. So basically, what this film is about, the film opens a group of, I believe, 12 people are on a like a rafting trip. They're going in their there's three rafts. They're four people per raft, and they're paddling through beautiful countryside, mountains, and down a river. And they eventually get to their destination, and they hike up a hill, and they come upon an abandoned ghost town. It's like a way to have like the old Wild West. So they get to this town, and they're going to make camp for the night. And during the night, somebody people start getting killed, and they have to survive that first night. Isolated in this dark, abandoned town. And, the next morning comes, and of course, something happens. They realize that they are stranded here. There's no escape, and they have to basically wait until help can come to them. So they say that it might be later that day. It may be the next morning, so they may have to spend another night in this town. And, yeah, they basically are stranded there, and they have to wait it out, and the killing doesn't stop. These 12 people uh, keep getting picked off one by one. And, that's pretty much it for the plot, to be honest. There's a few other characters who show up in the middle of the film. Again, and they basically just serve as either more kills, for the killer, or they're sent in as like a plot device to try to, explain some of the narrative of the film. Yeah, so that's basically pretty much it for a quick little overview of the plot. All right, so yeah, I don't even know where to begin with this film. I guess I'll start with the positives. One of the things I did enjoy was how the cast was of all different ages. There was people in their 20s all the way up to some people in their 60s. Because it was kind of like the the people on this rafting excursion, they were like paying guides to take them down, the river and explore wherever they wanted to go explore. So there was different groups paying. So there was like an older group, there was like, middle-aged married couple group, there was some younger, 20 something. So there was a good diverse age group, which, for an 80s slasher, it's something you don't really get to see, so I kind of like that part of it. It's usually always teenagers or young, 20 somethings in these films. So it was just kind of refreshing to see, people of all ages. Now, unfortunately for me, they didn't really utilize this in any kind of an effective way, like play up any kind of like a generational gap, like the young people, arguing with the older people. There was a little bit of it, to be sure, but I feel like there was like a missed opportunity, to play up the different types of characters they had in the film. But still, it was still different, and it was, it was just kind of fun for an 80s slasher. Now, the music in this film is great. I'll say that there was quite a few different tracks that were used throughout the film, and they were all kind of um, they kind of seemed like something you would see in an 80s like sitcom, or like an 80s, kind of like an 80s teen sex comedy type, that kind of music. They're all a little funky. They were good. I liked them. They stood out enough to me while watching the film that I was like, oh, here's another good song. So the music was good. Now the issue, was that sometimes, um, they didn't fit in the best way. Sometimes some of these, sitcom type music was playing, during, a scene that was supposed to be a little more tense, more of a horror type scene. Um, so it was a little odd at times. Now there was, an additional, like there was like like a proper horror score involved, and it was used at the right times, a majority of the right times. But like I said, there was just a few moments where maybe the beginning of a tense scene, this sitcom type, whatever you want, like this funky type music was playing, and even though I liked the music, it was fun. The music slash scene pairing was, you know, uh, a little off at times. I'll say that. But yeah, overall, music was good. I enjoyed the music in this film. Something that definitely stood out. Now, in terms of plot, that is about it for me for the good. And even with each of those, I still had some issues with them. So I'm just gonna say it. I did not like this film. Now, um, I'm not saying that this was is like a badly made film, because it wasn't. It's a decently made film. The acting was fairly decent. There was some terrible actors for sure, but there were some decent actors. John Wayne's son is in this film, so there's that. Yeah, decent acting. Cinematography was fine. Um, but as an 80s slasher, it just wasn't any good. It didn't check any of the boxes, of the things that I want and expect from an 80s slasher. Um, and like I said, we'll get into each of those as we go on. But like the plot of this film, like once they got to basically, the destination, the ghost town, I'll call it. The plot basically consisted of one by one people finding a way somehow to wander off on their own from the group so they can get killed. And it's not like, it was, they didn't know to do this. They, after like the first or second kill, I think after like the first kill, um, you know, all these 12 people knew a killer was on the loose, and they were being picked off when they were isolated. So all they had to do was stick together. and there was always just some stupid plot device that's like, oh, I forgot this, I'm gonna wander off. So everyone's huddled together in one building, trying to avoid being killed, and one person's like, oh, I forgot a beer. I gotta go get a beer in the other building. I'll be right back. And then, no, no, I'll be fine. And they wander off, and sure enough, they get killed. And it just kept repeating over and over for every time we got killed. And it's just the character actions were just not believable. Way past the point that the genre usually offers. Of course, we have to suspend our disbelief with these type of films, which is fine. I can do that easily, but it was just each little segment, like kill segment or whatever, was written based on the premise of, oh, I got to be alone for just a minute. It's just, I don't know. I just did not enjoy the way that the film was structured. Now, like I said, we will get into the kills, a little later, but we never see the killer or really find out what their motivation is. And that's, when you're dealing with an 80s slasher, that's one of the fun things, like to figure out the mystery, like, okay, who's doing it? And then once you figure out who's doing it, like, oh, why? And there's a charm to, like, sometimes it doesn't make sense or it's not very good, but there's a charm to, like, oh, this person, did this to me when I was younger, or I lost a sibling, or whatever the case may be. We don't get any of that in this. There's, like I said earlier, there's a couple characters that come in, introduce themselves, and there's one character, he comes, like, in this, listen, there's not much to spoil in this film, so I'm gonna just, it's really hard to spoil this film, so I'm just gonna tell you a little bit of what this is. But a character comes in the middle of the film riding a horse, of all things, with a dog, and he's supposed to be like, like the wayward drifter, something like that. That's the vibe he's given. And he just sits down and he tells all these people a story, and it's a convoluted, it's dry, um, and I'll be honest, I was bored. The pacing, and I was at this point in the film, I was bored, so I wasn't probably paying enough attention. But apparently, this little brief dialogue that this character gives, um, is where the answer lies to the motive and who the killer is and whatnot. So if you don't pay attention to that 2-3 minute little dialogue, um, by the time the credits roll, like, you're not gonna know who the killer is or what the motivation. There's no explanation, and that was the case for me. I'll be honest. When the credits rolled, I didn't know who the killer was. No idea. Was it a man? Was it a woman? No idea. And, like, why they were killing these people? No idea. Um, I had to look it up. I had to go on the internet and be like, what did I miss? And sure enough, I discovered, like, oh, okay, that little 2 minute dialogue, that's the hint. And if you weren't paying attention to that super super dry, um, you know, little speech he made, it's not gonna make sense. And even if you did pick it up, even if you did pay attention, I don't even know how, if it would have made sense to you, to be honest. Yeah, it's not good for an 80s slasher. You can't do that. Like, man, I don't know. So yeah, overall, the plot of this film is very thin to begin with. Um, and then you throw in how slowly it was paced, and it was just kind of boring. Nothing really happens. It's just repetitive. Get a character by themselves, isolate them, kill them, rinse, repeat. That's it. There's nothing much going on with this film. So in terms of plot, yeah, not a fan. Not, like I said, not a bad movie in terms of the creative process, I guess. But for an 80s slasher, yeah, not good. Not good. All right, let's move on and talk about the setting. All right, so the the best and really only good part of this film, in my opinion, was the setting. Um, like I said, we start off, by, showing, some rafting in these nature scenes of people rafting down like a big river, like it was like a big river, not like a rapids type river, like a wide open expanse of water, going through these tree covered mountains, beautiful. I really enjoy slashers that are set in these nature environments, like just before dawn, and don't go in the woods, and the forest, all these, regardless of the quality of the film. I just like slashers set in that setting. Um, so yeah, started off really good. I really like that. And then, like I said, eventually they get to this abandoned ghost town that's like right out of the Wild West. And it's that setting is it's very cool. It's very unique. It's something quite different for the slasher genre. Um, yeah, it's cool. I really liked it. And even in like the daylight scenes when they're in this ghost town, it's still kind of a really fun town to explore because it's like right out of like the dirt streets, and like there's like the saloon, and like the restaurant, and like the hotel. Some of them have like the swinging doors on the saloon. It's cool. It's just it's a really good setting for a slasher film to be set in. And then of course, when we get to the nighttime, it really amps up the creepiness. It's really cool. There's some really good use of shadows and lighting. Um, and it's just looking outside in these like the dirt streets. It's just, I don't know. It's a really cool setting for sure. But even these night scenes, as cool as they were, and they weren't they were good, but I feel like they were definitely underutilized. Like a director, um, who a little more, a director who would possibly make a better 80s slasher. I'm sure could have done wonders with this location. As it were, for this one, it's pretty good. The setting is strong enough to stand by itself, but they could have done some really cool things if they would have. Like I said, we'll talk about the kills in a bit. Um, chase scenes and whatnot. It would have been really cool in this little thing, but there was no chase scenes in this film. Yeah, so a little underutilized, but still really cool. So yeah, overall the setting of this film, really cool. It's unique. There's I don't think there's anything quite like it, like an abandoned Wild West ghost town. It's fantastic. I just wish there would have been more and it would have been utilized better. But yeah, still really cool. But unfortunately, just the setting is just not enough to save the film for me. All right, let's go on and talk about the kills. All right, so Scream. Total of 7 kills in this film. 6 of the 7 kills, and I'm being generous with six. Technically it could be 7, but I'll say 6 of the 7 kills occurred off screen. Um, no practical effects on any of those 6 kills. And like I said, that one that I'm giving a little credit for, maybe has a little bit of a practical effect on one kill, but it's so quick. It's literally like a camera cut. It's so quick. So you could look at this and say it's 7 of 7 off-screen kills. I'll give it 6, but yeah, basically no practical effects. Um, Not only that, there's very little, if any, blood shown. The only blood that you actually get to see are on the weapons themselves after they've been used. You see like a bloody meat cleaver or a bloody axe head. That's it for the blood, basically. Um, Honestly, the kills in this film were pretty much non-existent. Um, they didn't exist. Um, people were getting killed. We just didn't get to see it. And to me, that's like a cardinal sin for an 80s slasher. Um, Terrible. I'm yeah. I just we need to see the blood and the gore and the guts and the practical effects. It just, that's what these films are about, and this film absolutely did not deliver in that department. Um, really too bad. Um, like I said, as for the killer, like I mentioned earlier, um, there there wasn't really a killer, to be honest. I don't even think, I could be wrong, but I don't even think we saw hands making the kills. All we saw was the movement of a few weapons. So you would see, like, like the, like a little bit of a knife, like a cleaver handle and the blade moving, like you didn't even see a hand holding it, I don't believe. If you did, it was very brief. It's like the killer was non-existent, you know? Um, and I'm still not even sure I understand fully who the killer was, and their motivation is even more unclear to me. It's just, man, what a, yeah, the kills are just such a disappointment for this. I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting, at least a few decent kills, and we practically got zero. So yeah, in terms of the kills, super super disappointing. Um, yeah, that's too bad. All right, let's move on and talk about the nudity. All right, the nudity in Scream is nil, nothing. There's nothing. There's no nudity. There's no titillation. There's no it's non-existent. Almost like the kills, even worse than the kills, because it's literally not there. It was an afterthought, like for this genre. They just didn't even bother. So um, yeah, that's it. That's it for the nudity. All right, let's move on. talk about let's talk about the Blu-ray. All right, so this Blu-ray here of Scream was released by Code Red. This is a re-release. This recently got released. There was an original release a while ago, went out of print. Usually Code Red, that happens quite a bit with them, it seems. But yeah, this, if you're watching this video, in 2021 or whenever, this should still be, still should be available to buy. This isn't a great looking film by any means. It's lower budget. It's pretty grainy, especially like all the outdoor, daylight shots. They're pretty grainy. It's not a lot of close-ups when they're outside, so it's a very soft looking picture. And at nighttime, it's really dark at times, so a lot of like the shadows, like there's not a lot of detail in the shadows. Like you're not looking at like a 4K type picture here, so the shadows aren't super clear. But this is just an issue with the source material. I'm sure Code Red did the best they could with what they had. It says it's on the back here that it's a 2K scan from the original negatives. It doesn't look horrible. This is the best. This is probably the best this film's ever gonna look and sound. Um, so yeah, take that for what it's worth, I guess. Um, Now in terms of special features, you don't get much. You get the scan, you get a audio commentary with the director, you get the theatrical trailer, and the only special feature is, this is it's less than 3 minutes. It's like a movie intro with Maria Kanellis, who is apparently a WWE personality wrestler, or was at one time. And it's cheesy. She's trying to do like an Elvira thing, introducing the movie at the beginning, but you have to go into the special features to watch it. So I guess you have to go into special features, watch it, go back, and then watch the movie if you want to use it as an intro, which I wouldn't recommend because there's some small spoilers. Um, but yeah, it's silly, it's cheesy. There's minor spoilers, and she even kind of craps on this film, so it's kind of funny. So yeah, recommend the Blu-ray. Yeah, it's probably the best package of this film that you're gonna get. Um, so yeah, and the case, solid case, no reversible cover art, just the one Blu-ray disc. I would have liked, like, there's cooler cover art out here with like a sickle, which is really cool. I'm not a big fan of this, but yeah, not bad. All right, so that's it for the Blu-ray. So let's move on and wrap it up with some final thoughts. All right, so yeah, 1981 Scream. Uh, not not a good 80s slasher in my opinion. Besides having a pretty cool and unique setting, in like this, in a abandoned Wild West ghost town, the film does nothing that an 80s slasher should do. The plot barely exists. The conclusion of the plot, makes little to no sense and is really not that impactful at all. That the pacing is pretty slow. The film, I hate to say it, but it's kind of a boring watch. Um, so yeah, and then of course you throw in the fact that there's no nudity, which again I've said it before. You don't need nudity in these films, but it's something when you go and watching these, it's kind of expected. It's part of the DNA of this genre. So when it's missing, it kind of stands out. So this film has zero. There was no pretense of it. They didn't even try. But worst of all, there's basically no kills in this film. Like I said, people get killed, but we as the audience watching it, we don't get to see it. We don't get any blood. We don't get any gore. We don't get any practical effects. Um, and it, those, the kills and nudity, those, like I said, those are the two elements that an 80s slasher needs for it to be an 80s slasher, in my opinion. Of course, that's in my opinion. And this film has neither of those. Um, yeah, I just, this film for me was really disappointing. I hate to say it because I was looking forward to this. Obviously, if you can't tell, this was a first time watch for me. Um, and like I said, I knew the reputation of this. People, when I did an unboxing of this on the channel, and I said, "Oh, I'm excited to watch it. I can't wait to check it out." And a few people left comments saying, "You know what? Um, I like this film." They said, and that they said, we know it's not a good film, but I can find enough charming things in it. That was a couple of the comments left on this, so I was like, okay, let's let's see. I'll check it out for myself. So I was optimistic. Unfortunately for me, it just didn't work because like I said, it's barely an 80s slasher. It didn't have any of the elements that that make up this genre. Um, so yeah, it's like I said, like not a bad film. I'm not saying this is a bad made film. I'm sure that like the technical part of it's fine. The acting was fine. The written dialogue, I guess, the script, it wasn't terrible, you know. Um, it's just for an 80s slasher, it's just not there. So yeah, in my opinion, the reputation this film has is warranted. It, it it's just not for me. Not my type of 80s slasher, if you can even call it that. So in terms of recommendation, I'm only going to recommend this, for to people who are collectors and collectors of the genre, or completionists, people who just want to see every title within the genre they can. Someone like myself, I have it. I'm glad I have it. Um, and now I know. Now I know where this stands, and it's way down low in my overall 80s slasher rankings. But now I know that for sure. So. Um, yeah, that's it, guys. That's my review of 1981's Scream. So I just want to say thanks everyone for watching these videos, subscribing, leaving comments, thumbs up, all that stuff. It's really appreciated. The channel's starting to grow pretty good. There's a lot more people leaving comments. We're having discussions on here. It's great. I'm absolutely loving it. So yeah, just thanks for everyone, and we're gonna keep going. We'll keep talking about this fantastic little genre. All right, guys. So that's it. So yeah, until next time. All right. See ya.